I could lose you like some loose change. Usually I like to kick it through the Luke Kane. Every night, living life out of suitcase. Too many voices in my head to hear what you say. That's why I'm swimming in this liquor like a pool day. That's why I'm flying out to Vegas on a Tuesday. Yeah, I might catch a couple L's, but I'm cool, Jay. You never know, just like the shoes say. A new wave, I am on, wonder where my mind is gone. Every time I write a song, I feel like I right or wrong. I keep running right in place, might as well enjoy the chase. Wish I knew back then what I know right now. What I know now. So fresh, but I guess how I wanna. Made a name.
Ladies and gentlemen, you say that at the start of the corner booth, but so I got to find someone else to say. But welcome to the first ever edition of presented by Belly Up Sports. I, of course, had to have on for the first ever episode the man who brought me to Belly Up, the man who I talk to more than most of my family, Jared.
Hey.
Jared, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm having a nice relaxing Saturday for once. No craziness, nothing really. Just went to the gym, came back, having a drink, good stuff.
It's true. Cheers. I'll drink to that.
Cheers.
What are you drinking?
Bud Light Seltzer. Don't make fun of me because I had a double IPA before this. But
I'm a big seltzer guy. I'm not going to make fun of you for that.
Oh, I know. I'm talking about the viewers. I know you won't because I watch you kill an entire case of White Claws on vacation. So,
in like 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, listen, folks. To be fair, I also killed a 12-pack of like IPAs in that 3 or 4 hours we were doing that. That was clamming day. That was a fun day. Anyway, I'm trying to keep it's summertime, trying to keep working out, trying to get myself in good shape. So it's a lot less calories than drinking a double IPA right now. So
while we're talking about drinks, what is your go-to drink? If you're going to the liquor store, like I've had a rough day, I need my go-to, I need my favorite drink. What are you grabbing?
Double or triple IPA, generally. It's got if I had a rough day and I'm not like planning on being productive, 9% alcohol or higher. I want something that's going to put me in a relaxed mood really quickly. Generally, I like, there's a couple, so Fitch makes 2 beers that I love and will always love and I'll always drink. Skullhammer, which is a very wintry IPA. It literally has a picture of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, smashing a skull on it. It's very bitter. It's very strong. And they have a Imperial, which is very similar in taste. Or my go-to beer, which Kevin knows it very well, it's Two Hearted IPA, Two Hearted Ale. It is a New England IPA, which is 7%. Comes with a little fish in the can, and is the easiest drinking IPA you'll ever have, and it tastes amazing, but it sneaks up on you, so I definitely have to watch myself. But those are my go-tos. Also, one of my buddies works at my local liquor store, so basically, he's like my sommelier. I walk in, tell him how I'm feeling, he goes, I got one for you. He's shooting about 90%. Yeah, I know. He's shooting about 90%. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, he rarely ever gets it wrong.
There's a liquor store by my house that my sister and I always go to. And the guy there, he knows who you are at this point because my sister and I are alcoholics. And he gives knockout recommendations for whiskey every time.
Is this Wampum or is it the other one?
It's the other one.
Okay. I haven't been to the other one yet. I've only been to Wampum Corner like twice.
Pretty good. And then... but my sister, who drinks wine, says, yeah, he does not know wine at all because he recommended something to her once, and she said it was disgusting. It sat in our fridge for like 4 months because she didn't want to drink it.
I mean, when you come down to visit down here in Connecticut, you'll probably drag you along there at least once. But like my boy Josh, honestly, he is on point every time. I'm like, hey, I'm feeling this, this, and this. There have been a couple times where I'll take a swing at something he's a little unsure about, and it'll end up being great. Generally, I got a pretty good eye. Craft beer, though, you really can't screw up craft beer for me unless it's like overly fruity or overly, I would say, yeah, really overly fruity or overly like too much going on. You know what I mean? Like when like a beer has like, I one time had a chai tea IPA from Boogie Down Bronx Brewing, and I was just like, this is disturbingly awful. Because their double IPA is great, their India Pale Ale is great, their Pale Ale is amazing, but the last beer in their set was this like chai tea like IPA or ale, and I just was like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever drank in my life.
Yeah, that I mean,
I couldn't
good
finish
on
it.
them. Good on them for trying, but I would never want to drink it. Also, beers that are self-described as spicy.
Yeah,
I
no, never.
I didn't see this when I bought it the other day. Voodoo Ranger Atomic Pumpkin. It's not a special release. It's a spicy release, and it's disgusting.
Voodoo Ranger generally makes amazing beer.
I know. I was disappointed.
The only bad beer I ever had was Juicifer, and that made me like so angry because I was so excited because like they've been on a hot streak. All their new releases were amazing, and then I tried it. I'm like, this is gross. I'm like, it's okay, like, but it's not worth like $15 for a 6 pack. It's not worth it.
That's true. And last beer-related question before we move on: how do you
Right.
feel about sour beers?
I've only really had one I've enjoyed, and that's Triple Monkey by Victory. It's my boy Chris's favorite beer. He brought over to the Super Bowl party, and it's not sour enough where it's like it's overpowering. A lot of sours are very just so much like it tastes like you're drinking Sour Patch Kids,
Yeah,
but not we're not even in a good way. But the 9.5% alcohol kind of hurts you a little bit, but the taste is really good. It tastes like you're drinking it's a solid ale sour kind of mix, and it's very good. But generally I don't mess with sours because I want something that's not going to screw up my palate a lot. Like if I'm having a beer, I want to be able to have a burger, fries, or pizza or whatever I'm having with it. So like tonight I'm having pizza. It's going to be probably Miller Lite or an IPA or a Long Trail or something like that's going to be easy to go with it. When you mix flavors like that with beer, you can get really dicey. By the way, for all my sushi fans out there, having a low key IPA with sushi is the move.
ooh, I'm gonna have to try that at some point.
Oh yes,
So let's get off the beer talk so people don't think we're huge alcoholics.
we're not.
So, as I mentioned, you kind of brought me into Belly Up, but I'm always curious the background people have because I have an accounting background. I didn't do anything with journalism before I came here. I was kind of, like, what's your background when it comes to journalism?
So like every kid who played sports when they were little, I wanted to play professional sports, but I was 5'9" until the age of 21 years old. I grew 2 inches in college, thank God. Uh, Yeah, I literally got up to 5'11" by the end of my junior year. I was like, oh, this is awesome, but I'm still out of shape and have no shot at playing professional sports. But, I was a little short, chubby, fat kid, but I love sports so much that I, started writing about it. I started writing for a little blog that my parents' friends owned when I was in high school. I wrote a couple, and it was fun, and I applied for scholarship. Didn't get it, of course. But I kept pursuing it. I went to Southern because they had the best journalism program in the area that wasn't like, breaking my back, overly priced Northeastern. And I, was the only other out of state program that I liked was LSU's, but, never ended up pulling a trigger on the application. So never know, never will. But I ended up going to Southern, doing sports media, doing writing, thought I was going to be a writer. And then I'm in my dorm, literally playing Xbox, and I look out my window. The club fair is down below in the block because like the way Southern was set up was basically a block. It goes around, wrapping through a bunch of things. So on this block was like a big block party style um, club fair. I saw the radio station was literally directly across from me. I saw the TV station and the radio station. I walk up to the TV station. These guys were ignoring me. So were the paper people for like 20 minutes, and I was so turned off by the fact that like I was so eager to start doing stuff. And basically, the TV people said, "Yeah, usually we only give juniors and seniors shows, and usually we only do this, this, and that." I'm like, "Well, screw you guys. I'm going over to Southern, the radio station." They're like, "Yeah, you can probably start a show next week if you want to." I'm like, "Bet. I'm all about this." So I signed up right away. I went to every single meeting. I was so excited. I did my first show by myself. Could never figure out how to get the recording done. So 99% of my shows that were done at Southern were never recorded because the recording system was so sketchy and so terrible. So like I think I have like 2 or 3 saved, but like some of my best interviews that if I didn't put them on my laptop before I recorded them on air, they don't exist. But I did that for 4 years. I went through 8 different co-hosts for multiple reasons. One knocked his girlfriend up, had to drop out of college. One worked full time and couldn't make it on. Um, one ended up just dropping off the face of the earth. 2 ended up starting their own shows that ended up failing miserably. And then we ended up not being friends post-college. And the last one transferred to play D1 football at Rutgers. Yes, the starting quarterback at Southern, my co-host for a year, which was great. Honestly, those were the best shows I ever did. And I'm in contact with the guy, Rob. He's actually a coach at Rutgers now, and he's a great dude. But so by the time my senior year went around, I went through 8 different co-hosts. I ended up finishing it solo, and it was great because one of my former co-hosts, my buddy, who transferred, came back, and 8 guys showed up in my last episode. It was a really cool experience. I almost teared up on air a little bit, but I went to sell insurance afterward because I couldn't find a media job because I was lazy and didn't apply for enough jobs. And New York Life hit me up first, and I was just so excited. I was getting a job offer. I went through it, no questions, and I was working it for a year. Lost so much money, was so in debt. Took a manual labor job, and I'm thinking, maybe I should join the military, maybe be a cop, something. I'll figure out something that's like, that I can put my physical skills, like the fact that I'm a very, active person, and the fact that I'm really good in team setting, maybe I'll put that to use. And then my cousin-in-law, Brian, hits me up saying, hey, I just joined this website. We need writers. It's Belly Up Sports. Belly Up goes, hey, you want to write an article? So I wrote an article about how college football needs to be more fun. And it was like more turnover chains and Baker Mayfields and less like this is pre to Alabama, so it was like less Alabama. So like it was the old ground and pound Derrick Henry, like basically make my eyes bleed football, not the hey, let's light up Arkansas for 85 points. So I wrote that article. It got like 140 views in one night, and I was like, oh my god, I love this. This is so much fun. I wrote a couple articles. And then I I went on Rattlesnake's old podcast, Chairgating, and I was like, you know what? I really love podcasting. This is fun. So out of nowhere, I just announced while I was on an out-of-state trip helping on a podcast, doing a segment quick, while I'm in my car, in the truck with my coworker sitting there being quiet, recording. I said, oh, and by the way, in November is dropping the Corner Booth podcast. So I said, you know what? All right, I'm doing this. And I was trying to scour everywhere to find somebody who could work with me as a podcast host. Because you know what? I've lost so many co-hosts in the past. I need to find somebody who would work with me. Mark Riley just started working here. And I hit him up out of nowhere. I'm like, yo, would you want to do a podcast with me? I get along really well with you in the chat. I love your takes. Would you want to give it a test run? He goes, sure. And, you know the rest of the story at this point. But basically 2.5 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah, I mean, you just sprinted right through my day. I was going to ask what brought you to Belly Up, but said your cousin, who
cousin-in-law,
twice.
No, my cousin's husband. So,
yeah, I knew what you meant. That's good elaborating though. So you mentioned the Corner Booth podcast. You can check it out. It drops Tuesdays now, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and it will be back to Tuesday and Thursday once football season starts. Also, the live stream 6:30 on Thursdays. Jared's podcast.
This handsome mustache gentleman right here. He is my snarky sidekick. So it's not anything without him. So
I was just gonna say it's Jared's podcast, but he decided to bring me along for the ride.
We're definitely partners in crime now, more than it was ever before. Because honestly, Kev runs half the ship. So,
well, I appreciate that. That's why you were the first guest I had on. It's like I can't start this without Jared. But you mentioned Corner Booth podcast. You mentioned a bit of writing. What else do you do for Belly Up? And it's not saying that's not enough. That's clearly a lot. But is there more roles that you take on?
Yeah. So this is where a lot of my mental strain comes in. Not as much lately because it's been a very mellow summer. But I am one of the board of directors here. I'm one of the executives. I am in charge of podcast development. So let's say you want to develop a podcast. You hit me up. And we go through, I want you to do a live recording. I want your concept. I want your logo. I want all these things done before we put you through the contract and everything else, which is where my boss, Blaine, comes in, who is one of the owners and one of the co-founders. He is the director of the podcast department while I'm kind of like his number two. Basically, I'll work with podcasters to get themselves up and running. And now as we start to move towards a more regularity with more sports coming back, everything back in the full swing, starting probably later in this year before the year ends, I'll start going back to development. So I'll like have all the podcasts. I'll listen to them, write ups for each one, and it's always gonna be random, so they can't be like, oh, we have our evaluation this week. We have to, make sure our podcast is good this week. It's like, no, I'm gonna catch you with your pants down. Basically, I'm like, if you're good, you're fine, but if you suck, I'm going to rip you apart because, I got my degree in broadcast journalism as my focus, and I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I've been editing on a computer that basically blew up, which is in the background over there. Now this nice new MacBook Air. I don't suffer fools when it comes to this department because it's definitely one of the biggest things. Podcasts is like the future of sports media. So I really think I have high expectations for people on this network. So definitely that's where 90% of my effort that's not corner booth goes to at Belly Up. And the last 10 is just, helping make big decisions, even though I'm kind of like the lowest tier of the executives. So I kind of just like chirp in the background, saying my opinion, and they kind of just will take it or leave it.
That's fair. And you mentioned kind of you'll help recruit new podcasters. If someone watching this has a podcast and they want to join the Belly Up Podcast Network, where would they send an email or something? Do you just want them to slide in the DMs or?
Well, you can go about it. It's not like, working at one of the cool things about being a small up and coming company is you can go any other way. Like my buddy Matt, big presence on TikTok. I was hanging out with him last night from college buddy of mine. I'm like, you want to do a sports pod? Hit me up. Like Belly Up will not hinder you. Basically, if you produce content and you're good, you will get support from us. So basically, slide in my DMs. Blaine's, the podcast departments, email us, go through the website. Kevin's, anybody really who works at Belly Up, if you get into their DM, say, hey, listen, I need you to put me in contact with who can help me get on the air, you'll find your way to me and I'll get you started. I guess that's the way to put it.
Okay, and they'll be up on the screen now, places you can go to try and get in contact with someone to put a podcast on the network.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're done with the ballot questions, quick word from our sponsors.
Hi. Are your friends a bunch of idiots who don't know sports like you, and you wish there was an easier way to take their money? Well, PropMe has you covered. PropMe is a social wagering platform catered to the everyday sports fan. It has a peer-to-peer betting marketplace for social wagering. It's also an all-sports betting platform, including even esports. A company that leads in social wagering innovation. Join PropMe on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Sign up and join the movement.
Now that we're done with kind of all the Belly Up related questions, anyone who knows you or has heard you talk knows what teams you're a fan of. They know it's Eagles, Timberwolves, Diamondbacks, Penguins when the playoffs roll around.
Because hockey's hockey.
Canes when it comes to college football. I don't even know if you follow college basketball.
North Carolina Tar Heels. But that's an interesting story because I basically refer to Miami for every sport except baseball. Or basketball. Baseball, it's kind of split between the two of them, but like my teams are weird in college, but
yeah. So let's give a rundown of why you're a fan of those teams, because most people might have one weird team, or if they're a military brat, they'll have different teams. That's not the case with you. Like, why?
All right, so Philadelphia Eagles is really simple. I grew up in a house where like football wasn't huge. My dad was a Vikings fan, but like, he never really pushed like, the Vikings brand on me. He was always kind of just like it was there. They tried to root for the Patriots occasionally, and it was kind of just like, hey, the Patriots were kind of just there, but like, my dad really kind of never really forced a football team on me. So basically, when it came to like rooting for a team, I really never had a squad. And this year was, I think it was 2002. I was in second grade, and my teacher was giving out football pencils. And I saw green being like, one of my favorite colors. I saw that. I'm like, oh, I want that one. Because the Rams and the Patriots, the only two teams I knew who they were both taken automatically. So I'm like, I want the green one. It's the Eagles. So I still have that pencil somewhere. 20 years later. I literally sat there and I said to my mom, like, hey, I had my dad's NFL shop catalog. I'm like, I want this jersey. I pointed to a green McNabb jersey. Because it was the first jersey I could see that was an Eagles one. So I got that, and then I started watching the games around like end of 2002, '03 season. So like right after the Bucks kicked their ass in the NFC title game, the pre-Terrell Owens, and I basically just kind of just started latching onto the team. They were my team. I always rooted for them, but like, it was like they were never my favorite team. The Diamondbacks were always kind of the king. And then the miracle at the Meadowlands happened, and basically I said, that's it. I'm getting an Eagles logo on my gravestone. I love this team more than some of my family members. Like, that's happening. So that's how I became an Eagles fan. And then the only time I've ever cried at a sporting event was watching those knuckleheads from 2017 jumping up and down on US Bank Field. Was it against the Patriots that made it better? Yes, because 04, the Patriots made me cry my eyes out after McNabb basically threw the dumbest interception on the planet. But yeah, that's the Eagles. Diamondbacks was because simple. I really never had a team. My mom tried to push the Yankees on me. My dad tried to push the Red Sox. My first baseball card was Randy Johnson, and I loved snakes, so I stuck with them. Even when I kind of rooted for the Yankees as my side team because I loved A-Rod, and then once the A-Rod, they kind of started doing A-Rod dirty towards the end of his career, I kind of was like, I'm just a full-time Arizona fan, F the Yankees. But basketball, Minnesota, Kevin Garnett, close and shut book. That man basically was the reason I fell in love with that team, and then I kind of stuck with them after he left, and then he came back, and I basically almost cried again. Hockey, Penguins, my uncle, I'm very close to him. He's like my second father, and he like the Raiders, Yankees, and Penguins, and I'm not going to be a Raiders fan. I wouldn't do that to myself. Yankees, it's like whatever, second team, but I was like, I'm going to root for the Penguins because I don't really have a hockey team, and it was right around the time of Sidney Crosby was getting drafted. The Penguins were like the worst team in hockey, so I started rooting for them a little bit. I was learning about Kevin Stevens, Jaromir Jagr, and Mario Lemieux, and it was kind of cool learning about all the history and how good they were in the early 90s and how much of a great player Lemieux was. So as much as everyone hates on Sidney Crosby, I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Penguins. And, I will never really – like hockey during the regular season, there's just too much stuff to watch. But playoff time until they choked it away this year. I generally watch Penguins games every postseason. Hurricanes is simple. College football, I never really rooted for a team. I rooted for players, so like Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, then up to Oregon with Mariota, Michael James, Dennis Dixon. And then after Mariota left, I was just like, I really don't have a team. I can't really root for Oregon because I hate half these losers. And I'm like, you know what? I was watching the U documentary while I was cooking in my college dorm. I'm like, I like this. I like the culture. I like the fact that they're cocky and they celebrate and they have fun with it. I like they kind of play like I played in high school, where like I would kind of hold a little bit after the whistle, or if like you chop my legs, I'd body slam you to the ground in the next play. True story, by the way. And I basically punched the kid from New Milford underneath his chin strap after he chopped my bad knee. So luckily the ref wasn't looking, but I should have gotten ejected for it. So yeah,
that was the next question. If there was a flag.
No flag. The kid chopped my bad knee on his own run. Next play, I hooked his shoulder pads. I planted him and punched him right here, just enough where it got some skin, but enough where it like clipped the shoulder pads. It wouldn't hurt the kid. But like I was like, don't ever. I literally screamed, "Don't ever effing chop my bad knee again, or I'll kill you. I will literally chase you down and snap your neck." I was like, it's so amped up on adrenaline. I screamed that at this poor sophomore who just chopped my knee out. And we were beating the snot. It was like 28-0, but I was not taking anything. I was not taking anything lightly with my bad knee that year. But North Carolina, I didn't even know college basketball existed besides UConn when I was a kid until about age 10. My buddy who just moved to Southbury, Nate, was wearing a Tar Heels jersey. I'm like, that's a dope jersey. He goes, yeah, it's for North Carolina. It's where Michael Jordan played college ball. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I started watching North Carolina games. It was the year they had like Sean May, Rashad McCants, Marvin Williams, Raymond Felton. The year they beat like D. Brown and Darian Williams in the Final Four. Ever since I was hooked. But I really don't root for North Carolina for that and for baseball. I guess lacrosse too. But like North Carolina is kind of a weird school to me because I always looked at it as like that school I'll never be able to get into whatsoever. So you need like a 4.9 out of state GPA to get in.
Yeah. Do you want to hear a weird fact about North Carolina?
Go for it.
88% of their student body, at least in 2015 when I was looking at schools, is in-state.
Yeah, no, they take all the smart kids from North Carolina that don't go to Duke. I found that out.
Pretty much. It's like they're one of the highest along with Virginia. But all right, so
Another crazy school.
I wanted to ask that question because I know I kind of make fun of you a little bit sometimes, saying you're only a fan of the teams that were good when we were little.
Yeah.
And I knew that wasn't the case. I knew had a reason for being the fans of those teams that wasn't just they're good. So
Well,
I
I
want
never
to get
saw
that
Miami
on.
win. I became a Miami fan when they were about to get their butt handed to them by Clemson. My first game as a Hurricanes fan, like me being invested, was Deshaun Watson unloading a 50 bomber on the Hurricanes in Al Golden's last game. That was my first Hurricanes game. My second Hurricanes game was the miracle kick return against Duke. Okay? So I had the craziest 2 weeks. I'm like, all right, sold. I'm in for life. This is it. Sending my kids here. Like, this is happening.
I hope you got 60 grand to drop on that per kid.
No, they're going to be D1 athletes because unlike me, they'll probably have some luck.
Just find some girl who's like 6'4".
Bet. I got a thing for tar girls anyway, so you know that.
Problem solved. So we've kind of touched on what you're a fan of, what you do at Belly Up, your background, but what do you do in your free time when you're not working on the corner booth, when you're not dealing with my bullshit, when you're not developing podcasts? Like, what does Jared like to do?
Okay, so
Please
I
don't
already
say
mentioned it
sex.
before. I am a gym rat. I go 6 days a week. I used to be really, 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 really heavy as a kid. Like, I was at one point in college, like, probably like 290, 285. But, like, not, like, built 285 where, like, I could probably bench up a 300 pounds, like, super chubby. Like, it hurt to run. My knees were, like, aching. So I started getting into fitness. I had a lot of buddies who were personal trainer majors at Southern, so they started helping me out. And I started hooking it, like, almost making an addiction to it. So, like, everyone's like, oh, I have an addiction to this. I developed a bad drinking habit. I was like, I developed an addiction to going to the gym. Like, if I don't go every day, or I don't find some kind of exercise, I actually get grumpy. And Kevin can attest to this. Like, on days where we have the podcast and I can't go to the gym before I work out, I'm super bitchy on air. And you've noticed it for the past 2 years. There's something about working out. It's like the gym I'm in now, there's no service down there. There's only Wi-Fi. So anybody, including my boss and both my parents, can't get a hold of me because they have Galaxies. My mom does. She just never texts me anyway. But, like, the people who annoy me, siblings, boss, parent, they can't get a hold of me because I'm in a basement basically working out. And it's great. Like, today, nobody texted me except for you the entire morning. And I was so happy about that. But, like, it's kind of like where some people will meditate, people who are a lot more religious than I am. I mean, I try to act like a good Catholic boy as much as possible. Like, that's my temple. That's where I go to get myself centered. Kevin even says, I go to the gym on vacation.
Yeah,
I buy a 3-day pass at the Y to go work out.
That was a funny morning when I decided to go with you, though.
Yeah.
So last year, Jared's family was gracious enough to allow me to go to the vineyard with them. This year they offered, but I can't because of work. I got very drunk one night. That's the night you drilled my head, right?
No, this was the first night. The first night was the night my dad passed out with a cigar in his hand. Well, we had the drunk throwing and punting contest in the front yard.
Yeah, that was the night you drilled my head against a post.
No, it was the last night. Because that was the night that, like, we all went out for a long walk, and some of us jumped into the water at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you were passed out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, one of the nights, or basically every night, but one of the nights specifically, I got hammered, had to be taken to bed, and the next morning I woke up and Jared asked, "Oh, do you want to go to the gym?" It's like, "Sure." And then the next day he asked again. I was like, "No."
I enjoy going there, and you know what? Like,
It's tough to tell with the sweatshirt, but to those watching, Jared's essentially built like a fucking truck. You just don't mess with him. It will end badly.
Yeah, Kev learned my favorite day of the week is Arm Day, and Kev went with me on Arm Day, and he's like, "Dude, my biceps hurt after 4 days. Is that normal?"
I still do some of those workout stuff.
I know. Well, I mean, I even I'll even keep I added a bunch of new ones because, like, my biggest thing, I have a philosophy about life, but especially for working out, I like to learn new exercises from people who are more successful in weight loss or fitness than me, So like I started doing reverse curls and all these other crazy workouts for my arms and stuff like that. It's really helped with like less stress on my wrist and my bot and my elbow and everything else. So I guess like for me, fitness is a big thing. Two, I love watching sports. I can watch once the season starts. I can watch games from 1 o'clock to 8:30 every night. I will go sit at the bar, at a bar, have all the screens locked and loaded, and watch 8 different games. And it's kind of like that's just heaven for me. Just watching football, eating barf, or drinking a beer. Xbox with this knucklehead, playing Madden, Ghost Recon, Assassin's Creed, just kind of playing a lot of fun, just playing games. And yeah, just kind of just doing whatever, I'd say, because like the shenanigans I get into after I get out of work with some of my friends kind of can get a little dicey. So it's kind of just like whatever happens. Like at one point, I think we were throwing the football. Oh, playing sports obviously is one of them. But me and my coworkers throwing the football around our parking lot. It's a parking lot surrounded by warehouses. One of my idiot friends, Denzel, decided to punt my football in a tight warehouse. It's still on the roof of our upper warehouse. So my cheap football that was for the vineyard, and when we're like goofing around and somebody's like, hey, you want to throw the ball around, bro? And bet I got a ball in my car. That ball is now gone.
That reminds me of the meme. It's like the dodgeball that's been stuck in the ceiling of the middle school for 12 years.
Yeah.
It's just looking over. That's just what I picture when you're talking about that.
Yeah, my golf buddy Woo was like, hey, we'll go get it. I'm like, Mike, it's like 20 feet up, and then we have to go across a slippery steel roof. I don't want to go get it. It's $10 Under Armour ball. I'll go buy another one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then you also almost
my
broke
uninteresting
your toe.
life. What?
You almost broke your toe punting a football in the vineyard.
Then texted my trainer asking if it was broken. Then I had the craziest comment from my dad's hands. I threw a football like 60 yards, and my dad goes, when the hell did you get an arm? He goes, did you throw that? I'm like, yes. And he goes, when the hell did you get an arm? For those you don't know, my father doesn't swear. So even when he says hell, I think he might drop the F-bomb because he had a few beers. We were literally like all of us were cutting loose. So that was definitely my proud me moment. I'm like, I impressed somebody with my arm strength. But basically I going to the bar, working out, playing Xbox, or playing sports. That's basically my life in a nutshell.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier Thor and Gallant. I can't even pronounce it. You say the hammer.
Mjolnir.
Thank you. You mentioned that, and I know you're a big Marvel fan, specifically Thor, but we're going to get into a little bit of current news. Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman the other day died after a 4-year battle with prostate cancer. Yeah, it's very sad, and I know that there's nothing else to say about it, but Jared, what are your thoughts on Chadwick Boseman passing?
Black Panther was an amazing movie. I was so skeptical watching it, and then I watched it itself. The first time I actually watched Chadwick Boseman act was Draft Day, when he played Vontae Mack, an overexcited outside linebacker. And then I honestly never really watched all 42. I saw half of it while I was on a plane or something, or I was in an airport. So I was somewhere. But he was phenomenal as it. I've seen 1,000 clips of the back end as well, or the beginning, whatever part I missed. And then I watched Black Panther. My then girlfriend and me went to it, and we were in one of those high class movie theaters, and we watched the movie. And she never really been a Marvel fan, but I was just I was hooked since freshman year, since senior year of high school, and I was like, oh my god, this movie's great. It's really good. I've probably seen Black Panther now 3 or 4 times. It's one of those movies where I don't want to watch it again now because it's I've seen it, so I have such good memories of it. I don't want to be start nitpicking. Where some movies are so foolproof you want to nitpick. But Chadwick Boseman was kind of one of those actors who I said this to my dad this morning. I'm like, he is one of those guys when you think of actors in the Black community, you see you hear the Morgan Freemans, but then you really got to throw in Chadwick Boseman, who played 2 icons. Well, one, the first royal black superhero with Black Panther and also played a real life superhero in Jackie Robinson. So to me, I think Chadwick Boseman's legacy in American culture is very well cemented now because of what he brought. And last comment is Wakanda forever, because I love, you know what, it was, you know, just utmost respect for him as a human and an actor. So
Yeah, my dad pointed out when I told him the irony kind of the fact that he died on Jackie Robinson Day.
yeah.
If you get a chance, I would recommend watching all of 42. It's a very good movie.
I have it, I think, on either Amazon or Hulu has it, and I'll definitely put that on the queue for this weekend.
Yeah,
So.
Chadwick Boseman killed it. One thing that really stood out to me is I saw it on Twitter. Chadwick Boseman, like a lot of the Marvel actors, but especially Chadwick, he went to hospitals and visited sick kids and kids with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
He did that all the time in the last 4 years. While he was struggling with prostate cancer, started stage 3, went to stage 4. He still went to these hospitals to try and make these kids smile.
You know what the craziest thing is? He also did this and then also acted on the side, which shows just the toughness of the guy himself. I mean, it's crazy because, you know, I like to consider myself pretty informed when it comes to like actors like Marvel and stuff like that. I never knew Boseman had cancer.
I think they did the best they could to keep it quiet. There was that incident a couple months ago, a couple months ago, where we went live on Instagram and looked very thin, and everyone was like, "What? Like, what's wrong with him? Is this for a role? Is there something wrong with him?" And it never really came out until yesterday.
Yeah. So like, I just got back from the bar with my buddies. My 2 college friends were coming to visit, and I was at a barbecue or a bonfire on my street. And I'm sitting there hanging out with my friends, and I literally look at my phone and says Chadwick Boseman died. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm just done with 2020 as a whole. Like, there's been not enough good to supplant how much like good we've lost. And Chadwick Boseman was one of the good ones. And, you know, like I said this before, like I said this to my dad before I came up here on this interview. I said, I'm like, listen, like the thing about Boseman was like he was a great actor, but he also was just like a good human. So that's what makes this even more sad. So
yeah, it's rest in peace, Chadwick.
R.I.P. King. So,
we're gonna miss your art, your movies, but also just you as a person. World's a worse place without you in it. And now, slightly changing gears, make it a little more positive. For those who don't know, the idea for the show kind of came from What's Up Belly Up, which is a podcast started by Mike, one of the co-founders and our boss. Feel weird calling him that.
It's dicey at this point because he just is there.
Yeah.
He's
like,
going to hear this.
That's not an insult. Like, I just feel weird calling him that.
I call him that only just to make him feel better about himself. That's about it.
And technically he is. Like, if he wants any of us gone, he could probably make it happen.
Oh, no, he could drop it. We would have to do the unthinkable, basically. Yeah.
But so it started with that. He did What's Up Belly Up. He had people come on. Jared, you were on at one point, I think.
I was on episode 6, I believe.
I did it once, I'm not sure. But then that kind of transitioned away and just kind of, it was him and Zach Mack, 2 guys I want to get on here as well, talking just about generic sports topics. So I wanted to bring that back in video form. But Mike always asked what your favorite Disney princess was. I didn't want to steal that idea, but I wanted to kind of bring a question out that would kind of put every guest mark on an episode. So, Jared, what do you want the outro music to be for this episode?
Ooh. Encore by Jay-Z.
All right. We'll make it happen.
It's my favorite song of literally all time, so.
I can't wait till someone comes on, probably someone kids, like, oh, it's going to be Let It Go from Frozen. Hey, I have to listen to them. If that's what they want, that's
by
what
the
they
way,
want.
when Mark Riley comes on, you have to do John Denver, West Virginia. Like, there's no question about it. You have to literally just like start playing before you can even answer.
Well, see, here's the thing. If he doesn't give that as an answer, I'm going to tell him how disappointed I am in him and how Morgantown should not let him back at any
Yeah,
point.
no, he's now banned from Morgantown for not saying that. Like, I did Encore because, there's a Jay-Z poster literally right there on my wall behind. Yeah, so like that, he's my favorite musical artist of all time. So I think it was kind of a fitting exit.
So yeah, we'll get that on there for you.
All right, sweet.
So that's it for our premiere episode of Beyond the Take. Jared, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Kev. Always.
Jared, what's your Twitter?
At BellyUpJared.
Okay, some of them have 51 at the end. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, only my email does, I think, at this point. I don't know.
Okay.
50,
So-
listen, it'll be either or.
Yeah, so check out Belly Up Jared on Twitter, Corner Booth on Twitter, Corner Booth on Instagram, the Corner Booth on TikTok, which I've been slacking on. There's gonna be content coming soon, though. We're working on more
Oh,
content.
yeah. Heads up for some daily videos me and Kevin will be pumping out once football season starts. So,
That's true. Follow Belly Up Sports on Twitter, Belly Up Sports on Instagram, like us on Facebook. I have no idea if I'm going to make a social media account for this. That sounds like way too much work, but we'll let you know.
you can kind of put it in our subreddit. How about that?
That's true. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm not making another YouTube for this. We know what happens when I've been put in charge of the YouTube account.
Just honestly, just have it as part of like Belly Up's YouTube channel. Like that's
Yeah,
what
that's what I want to do.
that's
I
what
wanna
my
do
YouTube show is basically. It's like it's like just part of the network on YouTube.
that. That's true. Probably did. So yeah, catch us next time. I'll probably try to get this out Monday-ish, and then we'll go from there.
I'm excited. Hey, listen, man, Kev, I'm proud of you for this. I think this will be a good thing for you because your snarky ass will definitely be great for these interviews. Even though you are very happy and positive today, which is definitely a nice twist.
It's just 'cause I'm talking to you.
Love you too, buddy. All right, Kev, I'm good here. So, all
right.
Thanks for having me. It was an awesome time.
It was a good time. It was
Cheers.
filled 40 minutes at points. I was like, oh, this might be running short. But thanks for tuning in. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, go out and vote.
And Wakanda forever.